Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to Straight Talk with Dr. Sharmee Pratt. I am your host, Dr. Sharmee Pratt, and today I have the privilege of introducing such a wonderful individual. Her name is Kiani Williams. She is going to be doing Straight Talk with me today. Yay, I'm super excited. I met Kiani on Clubhouse during the pandemic lockdown, right? And we met, and from there we connected, and she actually did and was presented on a major platform when I had Dr. Caroline Leave, Tim Story, Jason Goldberg, and Krista Allen, some major hitters right out there. And she was one of our presenters, one of the speakers, our online speakers. And I just connected with her in such a phenomenal way. And so today she is joining me for an awesome topic. The topic that we're going to be discussing today is regaining your focus after being on lockdown. That is a loaded topic. And the reason that we came up with that topic, because we understand that after 2020 hit, many people are still stuck. They have not literally regained their footing or their focus in order to move forward. And so that's our topic. It's going to be a juicy one. I trust me when I tell you that. But before we get into all that, let me go ahead and introduce to you guys Kiani Williams. Hey, Kiani, how are you?
Hi, Dr. Sharmee. Thank you so much for having me. I feel honored to be on your show. And so I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. So my name is Kiani, and I have a podcast. It's called the Grow to Be Free podcast. The mission is to empower young women to unlock their authentic freedom, walk in ambitious peace, and grow to their fullest potential in business and in life. And I really focus on interviewing inspiring women who have unlocked a new level of life and a greater sense of freedom through personal growth and development, which is a huge passion of mine. I truly believe that personal growth and development is how we learn how to not only live our lives, but really truly maximize what God has given us on this planet. So I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to talk with you, Dr. Sharmee, especially about this topic about COVID in 2020. And I think it's a huge thing that all of us are going through. And I hope that some of the learning lessons that I've learned can also help impact your audience and the people who are listening.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that introduction. And I am sure that it will. One of the things you said was your podcast. And tell me the name of your podcast again.
Grow to be free.
Grow to be free. I love that. Grow to be free. How and where can people listen to you at?
Yeah, so you can listen just about on any podcasting platform, like all the major ones like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and then of course on YouTube. Those are the major ones. But you can also find us on Google Podcasts and some other smaller ones. So you can just pretty much search it anywhere and you'll be able to find it. But I do recommend, if you wanted to have an easy way to have access to it, you can follow me on Instagram at Growing to Be Kiani. And in my link that's in my bio, you can find all of the links to whatever platform that you like best to access the episodes to.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So you guys heard it from Kiani. Go to her Instagram page. I'm telling you, this is someone that you do want to follow. And so we're just going to jump into our topic right now. And our topic is regaining your focus after being on lockdown. Now, 2020 was a whirlwind for the world. We're not just going to say for a few people. Everybody was not expecting 2020. And 2020 hit us in a way that we never would have expected. 2019, people had so many dreams and ambitions going into 2020. And yet, many of those things were shut down for so many people. But also some people began to regain their footing and their focus, and they blew up in 2020. But that's not everybody's story. And so I want to touch on the fact of those that may still be on lockdown, even though 2020 has passed. We are in 2021. We are trying to normalize our lives again, and yet so many people are still stuck, Kiani. And so I want to take a moment and just share your journey of 2020 with us, and how was it that you began to regain your focus?
Yeah, this is a great question. So for me, in 2020, I think I share a lot of sentiments that a lot of people had when stuff started getting shut down, right? Everybody was going crazy and taking stuff off the shelves. I have vivid memories of like walking through a grocery store and there was literally nothing there to get. And I just remember feeling like, wow, the world is ending and what's going to happen? And I think that that sense of anxious knowing of, what's going to happen next kind of took into people's mindsets as they were having to be locked in at home. Like for me personally, I just felt like helpless. Like, okay, what do I do? Like I'm not going to be going into work anymore. For me, luckily, I have a job where I can work from home. So throughout the whole 2020 and even now to this day, like I still work from home because it ended up being something that I really loved. And I think that's probably one of the benefits of having this change. But for a lot of people, including myself, a big stark change in how we live life can be very earth shattering and very jarring in a lot of ways. And I feel very fortunate that I've had plenty of mentors and people in my life that just kind of became like those strongholds where they gave off a sense of being immovable throughout the whole COVID 2020 that made me feel like everything was going to be okay. So I quickly clung on to those people because I knew that if I plugged into the negativity, if I kept on plugging into the news, if I kept on, listening to people who were just very scared, I was also going to become that type of person. So I really clung on to the people who I knew were going to give me a positive input, a positive mindset, and start instilling into me the hope that could be within 2020. So I feel very grateful. Quickly throughout 2020, I started to take hold of my goals, and I started to just really focus on them and focus on what I could control rather than what I couldn't control. I could not control whether or not we were going to be able to get out of lockdown. I could not control whether or not I was going to be able to go and do the fun things that I used to be able to do, like go to restaurants or hang out with friends. We all couldn't control those things, but I just really started to focus on what I could control, which was, what I did on a daily basis. And some of the things that really helped me on a daily basis was really just establishing a solid routine. And I'm not going to lie, this was really difficult to get started because if you think about it, this is what I was doing. I was waking up and starting work. Like I would wake up 5 minutes before I had to start work. So I would just roll out of bed and then go over to my computer, which was like, I don't know, maybe 6 feet away, and start working. And sometimes I would still just work in my pajamas. Like I didn't even brush my hair. Like it and I feel like this is kind of like a lot of people dealt with this of like, all right, this is the routine of just, getting out of bed, walking 6 feet away to your computer, doing work for 8 hours. And then sometimes I would work longer than that because when you have your workspace in your living space, everything tends to just blend together, and you don't know where you stop and where your work starts, and you don't know where your work stops and where you start. And that was very challenging for me to start really truly like getting a hang of like, okay, like I need to actually compartmentalize everything that I'm doing. I need to be able to focus on myself and prioritize myself, but then also have the time set aside for work and be able to focus on work and within that container. And outside of that container, be able to step outside of that. And now, what do I do after work? I really started to love going for walks after work. For me, I think that was like the first routine that I started building that really started to like change the way that I thought during COVID, is going for a walk around my neighborhood after the working hours. You know, I feel fortunate. I lived in San Diego, so luckily there was good weather. So I could go out and walk, and people weren't super duper strict about like, okay, you can't go outside. So I took advantage of that. That's something that I could control. I could control the fact that I could go out and walk. You know, maybe I couldn't go to a big old park, or something like a little bit more like around people, but I could walk around my neighborhood. So I decided to do that. And so for me, just building routines just really helped me. And I took that even into 2021, when we're kind of outside of the lockdown situation and we have a little bit more freedom. Like, the routines are huge for me.
That's good. Everything you said was good. Now, the one thing you said, some key points that I want to touch on. You didn't plug into the negativity. And so you did not allow your mind to get involved with things that you knew you could not physically change. And so you begin to mentally change your environment. That's really like one key aspect that I can just throw out there. And I want to ask you, how was it possible for you not to plug into the negativity when so much was going on in 2020? Like, many people would tell you they tried not to plug in into the news or different things, but it was a struggle, and they found themselves going further and further and further into things that they didn't know how to regain control or focus over. And so now we in 2021, and some people are still locked into 2020. And so what would you say, what would be some like techniques or some strategies or different things or tools that you use in order not to be plugged in into the negativity?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I really just looked at it as a temptation, right? Like, if you're an iPhone user, you know that when you swipe to the left, you see the news feed. And I have that on my phone as well. And sometimes I swipe over to that slide to go and search for a certain app. And a lot of the times I'm searching for the Bible app, which is kind of ironic. So for me, it's a simple matter of like looking at it like, okay, I have the temptation to go and browse the news, or I can choose to plug into something else. A lot of the times for me, it was plugging into the word, because I'm a person of faith, and that's one of the routines that I did build into my days at the beginning of the day. And for me, that was super important. And I think it's super key for anybody, whether you're a person of faith or not. At the beginning of your day, you need to start having a routine that plugs in positivity. And for most people, a simple habit that they do that they don't realize is really kind of wrecking their mental health is that they wake up and they start scrolling the news, or they start scrolling social media, or like looking at their messages, emails, whatever it is. That's like within the first like 5 to 10 minutes of their day. And already off the bat, you're starting off your day in a way that is not necessarily benefiting you in a positive manner. A lot of the times it's negative, especially during COVID. Everything is negative. Your friends are messaging you negative stuff, and of course, the social media, there's a lot going on. So for me, I think the biggest key that I implemented with staying in a positive mindset is starting off my day with positive inputs and being mindful and aware throughout my whole day of the positive stuff that I'm putting in, because negativity can only be minimized if it's diluted. If you have a cup that is full of dirty water, the only way that you're going to get the dirt out of that water is if you fill it with clean water. You have to dilute it. So I look at that on a daily basis of my mind. So if I'm going throughout the day and I notice that I start to get into a negative mindset, I think, okay, what's a positive podcast that I could put on right now? Like what are some songs that like make me feel happy that I can put on? Like what are the things that I can do to remind myself of the goodness and like all of the blessings that I have in life, because there's always something. Even throughout 2020, I could always find something to be grateful for. And that's another thing, is just, making gratefulness a part of your daily routine. Actually having time to sit down and think about what you're grateful for. And I know that could be so hard, and I've been that person too, where it's like, well, like, I don't know. That's kind of like how you think of like, I don't know what I'm grateful for. But even if you just say, look, I'm grateful that I woke up this morning. I'm grateful that I have breath in my lungs. I'm grateful that I have a bed to sleep in. Like, those are some real things that people do not have. So for you to start being grateful about those minor things, you will start to find the other things that you could be grateful for, and continue to remind yourself throughout the day.
That's good. That is very good. Those are good strategies. Listen, they really are very good strategies. Another thing that you talked about was you did not be blend things together. I think that is like so key. You took the time to not blend certain things, like you when you were talking about the concept of your job and your house, and everything just became like blended in, and you had to say, wait a minute, I need to regain my focus by compartmentalizing these particular things. And my work is my work, my house is my house, this is this. But in order for you to do that, I heard you say that you really basically, I'm going to say it in a different way, you had to take back the control that you had given over to those particular things to blend themselves in together. And so you had to come to a place where you began to look at things differently and say, wait a minute, no, I can't do this because this is just putting me into a mold or a rut that maybe not in the future will benefit me. And so I like that. The other thing that I like, and I want you to elaborate a little bit more on for people, is the building of routines. You said that you had to begin to build routines. And so a lot of people don't know how to begin again after things have been lost for them, if that makes sense. You have so many people in the world today that have lost a lot. And it's like, how do I start to rebuild after I've lost so much? You got people who lost family members. You have people who lost jobs. Like you said, I was grateful. I didn't lose my job. I'm still working from home. But that's not everybody's case, or that's not everybody's story. And so for the listeners and those that will join us a little later on, what would you say to them? To those that may be listening, that you can give some nuggets or some strategies to help them to regain their focus by building routines of positivities.
Yeah, I am so glad that you brought this up, because it's something that I've been studying for a few years now, of, how to build daily habits and how to build routines to really start changing your life. And so some of the books that I've read on this include The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy and Atomic Habits by James Clear. I really recommend those books for anybody who's looking to build some sort of routine or habit in their daily life. Or, if you just have a bigger goal, you're like, hey, I just want to change my life in any sort of way, I would 100% recommend reading those books, because those will give you the tactical ways of how to start building habits that actually start laddering up to your larger goals and start to help you start to change your life in a positive way. So some of the things that I've learned from those books, and just through my own personal experience, I would say, is just to start small is the biggest thing. The way that you can start small is just start thinking of, first off, where you are currently. What is your baseline? What are the things that you are doing on a daily basis currently? And, what are one or two things that are really small that you can change, that start leading you in the direction that you want to go. Like, for example, if you want to start being more positive and, maybe stop plugging into the negativity so much, maybe you feel very anxious on a daily basis. Maybe you feel a lot of fear still, and, we're here in 2021. I would recommend start um, finding those little points in time where you are plugging into negativity, and maybe you recognize, like, oh, like at the beginning of my day I realize that I'm scrolling social media. Okay, well, now that you know that, you can actually start recognizing that that is your habit currently. So how could you change that habit? What you can do is, when you find that you are reaching for your phone in the morning, you what you can do is, instead of going to the social media app, recognize, oh, look, I'm about to click on Instagram. No, I'm going to go ahead and click on my podcast app, and I'm going to put on a positive podcast. Or if you're a person of faith, like, I'm actually going to put on a sermon instead of going to social media. This is a simple tactic. It's called I kind of forgot the name, but it's definitely in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. What it is you recognize what a trigger is of doing a habit. And what you do is you recognize that trigger, and you change the habit that you do right after. So if the trigger is, like, I wake up, I pick up my phone, you now, what your new habit that you're going to start working on is, when I pick up my phone, I go to the Bible app, I go to play a sermon, I go to listen to positive music, I go to play a podcast, whatever it might be, instead of what the current one is picking up your phone and going to social media. So it's stuff like that you can start to change. But the real first step is recognizing where you are currently, and then starting to pick out those habits and changing them in a small manner. Because when we start too big, when we're like, okay, I'm just going to be more positive, that's a big goal, and it's very difficult to try and do that all at once. We have to start very small, because how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. So once you start getting a hang of these small habits, like, say you got a hang of, okay, I start out my morning with, like, some very positive mindset, positive stuff, and then you can start looking at other things that you can change. Like, oh, well, I realize that I don't get a whole lot of sleep, so I'm very cranky the next day. So you can start practicing, okay, well, I'm going to go to bed earlier today. Maybe it's just 20 minutes earlier. And then maybe the next day or the next week, it's an hour earlier. You just start to scale up every now and then and you'll start to see the snowball effect, because once you start to create those little wins, if you are very proud of yourself for the last 10 days or something, you've gone to bed early, now you feel good about yourself. And what do you do when you feel good about yourself? You feel more confident in doing more things. So when you start to find that confidence, it's not the time to slow down, it's not the time to cheat on yourself. It is the time to look at more habits that you can start building and start practicing more, doing more. Just like how you're in school. When you're in school, you start off small, and you start to get good at one thing, and then you get to get good at another one, and you keep on increasing the amount of work and the amount of the difficulty of the work that you're doing, in order to now become who you are today as an adult. So it's the same thing. In adulthood, we can continue to learn, we can continue to grow. It just is little by little, step by step at a time.
That's good. That is some good information there. I love those strategies. Listen, you guys have got some amazing strategies and some great places to start on regaining your focus. And I will just like to say, we want to leave people with minimum or even no excuses at all in order to execute or even do what we know what we know that's on the inside of them to do, if you will. And so this has simply been nothing short but amazing. I mean, literally, we have gained some valuable information from Kiani, just helping us. Listen, you guys, as we're ending out, I want her to take the last few minutes or so and just share with you whatever other strategies or techniques that she may can give. And also, I want her to share again how you're able to get in touch with her. If you want to just follow her on any of her socials or even follow her podcast, listen. This woman is dynamic, and so she's somebody that you really do want to get connected with. And so, Kiani, go ahead and take the next few minutes and just share your heart with the people.
Yes, thanks, Dr. Sharmee. Yeah, I just really want to share that you can do this. I really believe that you have the power to control what you can control in your life, and that's really enough. We can't control everything that goes on in our lives or in the world, but we sure can control our attitude and our actions. And if we just focus on controlling those two things in our lives, we can really make some positive change, because if you can change your own world in your own head, the world around you begins to change as well. And so I am just really excited to hear all of the great things that come from this episode and from you, Dr. Sharmee. You're putting out so many good messages into the world, and bringing some really great people to the table. And I'm just really excited to be able to share that with you and share that with your audience. And I really hope that some of these people can take away some really positive insights and just some little nuggets that can be implemented on a daily basis. And if there's one other thing that I'd recommend doing is, getting plugged in with people who are positive as well. People who have done a level of personal growth and development, who you feel like resonate with you. And whether you actually know them personally or not, I actually personally don't know a lot of very positive people, but you have to seek them out. Like, I've had to really seek people out over the years. And, Dr. Sharmee is one of them. And I feel very, very grateful that, God's brought her into my life. So just find those people that really resonate with you, that you feel like really can motivate you and help you get to the next level of life, and plug into them, whether they have like a podcast or YouTube channel, or maybe they just write books or poetry, something like that. Like, get as much as you can from those people, because it's really going to help out. And I mean, with that being said, like I mentioned earlier, you can definitely find me on Instagram is probably the best way. My handle is at growing to be Kiani, all spelled out. And you can like all the content that I post on there is positive. I have my podcast, Grow to Be Free. I post a lot about that. And so you can access that via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere that you could find podcasts. And you can find the link within my Instagram bio. I do have a line of journals that are coming out very soon on Amazon. So they're called the Ambitious Peace Journals, and they have a lot of space to write, a lot of space to, write down ideas or doodle. And they all have on each single page a new inspiring and inspirational quote. So I am very excited to release those to the world, because I feel like it's going to like really help a lot of people start to get their thoughts out on paper, and that's always key for just learning how to grow and develop in life.
That's powerful, very powerful. Again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Kiani, it was such a pleasure having you on Straight Talk with Dr. Sharmee Pratt. I enjoyed you. I know those out there, they're going to enjoy this, because it's been very impactful. If for nobody, especially for me, I love the strategies and the tools that you gave to us. And so everybody, thank you for joining us for a Straight Talk with Dr. Sharmee Pratt. We will see you next time.